Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their experiences at Cal State Fullerton. For this week's episode, we have Benjamin Taitz, who graduated from Cal State Fullerton in 2014 with a bachelor's in psychology. He currently works as a social worker at Royale TRC. Listen to this episode where we talk about his experiences at Cal State Fullerton, along with a variety of programs that he participated in while at CSUF. If you want to listen to this episode and all future episodes, you can head on over to titanradio.org to listen to them live at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Or you can head on over to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CSUF alumni to listen to this and all past episodes. So thank you so much, Ben, for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So to begin with, you got your bachelor's from Cal State Fullerton in 2014. I know you've done like a ton of things in psychology. So tell me what kind of led to your interest in psychology.
Oh, okay. So I was actually, when I first was applying for Cal State Fullerton back when I was a senior in high school, I was initially thinking about majoring in music, in vocal performance. And I had been auditioning for different vocal programs in other schools, and I wasn't doing well with it. And so when I got accepted to Cal State Fullerton before I even declared a major, I was like, you know what, that's not working out for me. And my older brother was studying psychology in his university, and so I was like, you know what, I'll do that. That sounds good. I like to help people. I like to talk. So I had always been a declared psych major from enrollment. Um, but I was like never sure like what exactly what I was gonna do with it. Throughout the whole 4 years I changed my mind, like, oh, do I want to be a teacher? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Just like any other student in any university, they go through their 4 years wondering what are they going to do with their lives. But I did stick with the one major because I didn't want to change majors and then like have to redo all my classes and everything. So I stuck with it.
But you always had a passion for like psychology once you got in. You never were trying to stray away from that.
No, I always knew I wanted to do something related to that. Initially, I thought I was going to, like I said, be a teacher, and that would have been a helpful degree to have before going to education. I thought maybe I would go to medical school. That was, my mother's deep desire, but that did not happen. I thought I was going to, work with, you know, in healthcare settings. I thought I was going to do this. I thought, there were so many ways that you can use a psychology degree that doesn't always actually have to do with practicing psychology. And I was looking at every single thing. Anything that could be reasonably related to psychology, I looked into. It wasn't until maybe like, I want to say like my sophomore year, because initially freshman year, I thought I was going to go to medical school. And I was like trying to do all the pre-med classes. Um, and for any student who's listening, pre-med classes include a lot of science and math and stuff that I am not good at. And I thought, no, it's okay, I can do it. But after freshman year, I was like, no, that's not happening. Um, and that's also when I started getting more involved on campus. My freshman year, I was in the freshman programs, but so initially I thought I was going to do like healthcare related stuff. After I figured medical school wasn't working out, maybe there's some other kind of healthcare related field that I could do. And so I was considering in sophomore year doing a health science minor, um, but I decided not to end up doing that because I didn't want to add more classes to my schedule. But I was always very passionate about like suicide prevention and bullying and kind of that kind of stuff. I was involved with some nonprofits, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I was very kind of following their work, and so I thought, okay, well maybe I can use this to like do education about mental health and stuff like that. And then I joined uh, the Active Minds Club at Cal State Fullerton my junior year, and because that's about decreasing stigma and encouraging people to seek out help if they need it, and understanding mental health issues. So that was always like a big thing. And so throughout that time, I thought, okay, the best kind of way I felt I could do that was maybe working in education, working as a school counselor or something like that. So I was taking a lot of like child development classes also. Um, it actually wasn't until after I graduated uh, that I realized I did not want to work with kids. After I graduated from Fullerton, I worked for the local school district near me as a childcare leader in their like after school program and in their summer program. And I was just like, yeah, no, I don't want to deal with these children. Nope, they're too crazy. And working with kids is not for everyone. So, but all throughout Cal State Fullerton, I was trying to find a way to kind of use my passion for helping people and you know making it so that people don't suffer as much. That was always something that I wanted to do, and all the different groups that I joined, all the different clubs had something to do with that to some degree. Active Minds, and I was also involved with Make a Wish Club, that was run by my friend and also a psychology major, Rawand. Um, and so we kind of always were focusing on something to like just make people feel better and bring a little light to the world.
And that kind of ties into the work you do now, since you're social work at Royal TRC. So can you kind of explain like a day in the life of a social worker and what you kind of do on a day-to-day basis?
Yes. So I am a social worker at Royale TRC. It is a locked psychiatric hospital, and we treat individuals over the age of 18, 18 and up, well, 18 to 65, with chronic and persistent mental illnesses like severe mental illnesses, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. We do get a fair amount of people with addiction and other drug abuse issues that are oftentimes comorbid. It's really hard to say like what is a day in the life because I don't always have a set schedule that okay, I come in and I know that I have A, B, and C to do. I do kind of for the most part plan out my week and my month. Um, it all kind of depends on the flow of the unit. If I'm having admissions or discharges, that obviously affects part of my work. But for the most part, let's say, assuming I have regular admissions and discharges, for the admissions, I would do a psychosocial assessment where I would try to obtain from the patient and from their family, if I have consent from the patient to speak with the family, I try to get information about their history. When did the illness start? What has their treatment history been like? Have they been compliant with medications? Where have they been seen? That kind of stuff. I would talk to the patient trying to get their perspective on what is going on with them, what are their goals for the future, what their coping skills that they use when they're feeling frustrated. And I would it doing social work, especially when doing a psychosocial assessment, is a lot of investigation. Particularly when working with this population, they don't often have insight. They don't believe that they're sick. They might be cognitively impaired. So I have to like really dig and find out information if I can. And sometimes I just don't ever get any information. But that's part of my work. I also run groups, various different mental health education groups, coping skills groups, substance abuse education. I do one-on-one therapy as well. Um, so that I would say is kind of the average. I have regular, there's always paperwork. Any job you have, if you're a social worker, a psychiatrist, psychologist, there's going to be paperwork. So I do have to spread that out throughout the week as well. Um, Reports that I have to write and assessments to complete and progress notes and all that jazz. But it's pretty open ended in So it's not very structured of a schedule like, oh, I have to do this by like 2 o'clock. No, I can tell myself, okay, I have to finish it within like a certain amount number of days, but with regards to the individual day, I'm pretty flexible. Um, and in the hospital, we work as a treatment team, the interdisciplinary team. So I work very closely with the nurses and the psychiatrists and the psychologists and the recreation therapists, because each of us have a different perspective. So we all have to kind of meet together and work out, okay, what is going on? What can we do? Who is the best person to address it? So there's a lot of communication, a lot of teamwork. Um, I've had to undergo training for de-escalation, and I think that's something that's really important for people to understand. Is you're probably hearing a lot on the news about, defunding the police, or maybe instead of that, training them for de-escalation or introducing mental health professionals instead of police when you're dealing with mental health calls. So I'm trained in those kind of de-escalation things. I've had patients who they are psychotic and they're delusional and you can't often reason with them. So you have to talk to them. You have to get them to stand down without laying hands on them. I am by law not allowed to touch a patient unless it is absolutely necessary to protect their safety and others. And so all the staff are trained in this, and it's hard in some cases, but we are very well trained in, when you work with the patients on a daily basis and you get to know them, it makes it easier because you already know what are some of their interests and you understand some of their delusions a little bit better, so you know how to address it. So I do that as well. Sometimes we have like fun activities for the residents because they are institutionalized. So we try to make it a little bit more enjoyable. Like every couple of months, we'll have a special luncheon where the staff will serve them a special meal, and we'll have maybe a carnival and they can play games and stuff like that. So we try to, encourage them to have fun as much as possible. Um, I do have to communicate a lot with family members and with their conservators, with, the legal system. Um, but that's, I guess, a good snapshot. But that's just social work in a hospital setting. Social workers work in a variety of settings. They work in child services, or they work in adult protection, or, homelessness or whatever. So in any kind of area, it, it's a little bit different, but it all kind of revolves around the same. As you have to understand the individual within the context of their environment. And it's a lot of creativity. You got to be really kind of clever in your thinking and your approaches to understand what their needs are, because sometimes they can't tell you what their needs are, or they're not able to tell you, or they just don't want to tell you. And that goes with any kind of field. And you're working with children, you work with prisoners or homeless people. Sometimes they don't want to talk. So you have to be clever in how do you still address their needs, even if you don't know for sure what is it. You have to really be very creative in your approaches to dealing with people.
So a quick question with the patients that come in. Uh, I believe you mentioned that they don't really know what is wrong with them and how to sort of fix that. Do they come in like voluntarily for the most part, or are they like referred from like family members or through like other incidents?
So that's a very good question. And that leads, that could lead into a really long discussion into the laws surrounding mental health care. But long story short, no. Almost all, like let's say 99.9% of my patients are there involuntarily. They did not choose to go into the hospital. They might have been brought in by police or some other person. There are a variety of different legal holds that are approved by the state of California to that justify holding someone against their will in a treatment facility.
Yeah, I was about to ask that,
Uh,
like what kind of rights do they have if they want to leave like the next day?
so they do have rights. They still have rights even when they are involuntary. I think this is a really big topic, and I could talk on it for a long time. But let's try to shorten it. So if they want to leave, there are legal avenues that they can pursue. They have public defenders that specifically work with the mental health system, and they have patients' rights advocates to assist them in petitioning to get released from the hospital. Um, we have a lot of judicial oversight because you want to make sure that their rights are being maintained and that no one is being held, you know, inappropriately.
So they
You know,
can't like really just walk out. They have to go through like a legal process with like public
yeah,
defenders in order to
yes,
get them legally discharged.
yes. That's if they're on a hold.
Oh, okay.
There are patients that come involuntary, and if they wanted to leave, they could. They could still be placed on hold if the doctor felt that they were not safe to leave. But at my facility, we don't often get a lot of voluntary patients. It is primarily involuntary.
And then you mentioned before that when people are mentioning like defunding the police, and instead of calling the police, if there's a case of maybe someone who's delusional on the street, he may be armed. We don't really know what he's thinking. Then they would call in like social workers like you in order to like de-escalate the situation.
Yes, and that's actually something that's being done across the country in different states. They're trying different programs for that. The main program that it is called crisis intervention training, and depending on the state, depending on the county, it might be a completely non-police response where it's a mental health professional and maybe like an EMT, or they might go have social workers or mental professionals riding along with the police because the police might still be necessary. You can try to de-escalate, but sometimes it doesn't work, and so you do need backup. So that is a program that is being tried in different counties and different states to some varying degrees of success. It all depends on the political will of the city and county to do it, and funding, of course. Oftentimes, without getting too political and into the whole defund the police issue, there are ways to still have police be effective, but giving them the proper training to deal with what they're being asked to deal with. Unfortunately, in today's society, police are being called for everything from domestic violence, mental health issues, to getting a homeless person into a shelter. And sometimes they're not prepared for that. And so I think maybe part of that conversation should be, if if the city or the state or whatever is not going to completely get rid of the police, which I'm not going to say my political opinions, but maybe try training them better or having someone else go along with them who is better equipped to handle it. Um, those are just different options, obviously.
I see. So there are a
The
couple
whole
of solutions
concept
out
of
there.
defund the police is too big to get into
Yeah.
here.
So there are a couple of solutions out there in order for like things to be handled a little better, which is either just give them more training or send in social workers like what you guys do out
To
into the
assist
field
them.
with them.
Yeah,
Yeah, to help
and
them out.
there are police departments that do that. In Orange County, we have what's called a crisis assessment team or a CAT team, and they will get called out sometimes with the police. They will either go with the police or the police will call them in after the police arrive, and they would do the de-escalation and assessments and get them linked to the appropriate services. Um, so that is something that is being done in Orange County, at least, and LA County has a similar program. I did used to work in Long Beach, and so I'm familiar with their stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's go into a bit of your education. So after you got your bachelor's at Cal State Fullerton, you went directly into your master's, right, at Tel Aviv University right after that. And then now you're pursuing your doctorate degree in the California Southern University. So this is all back to back, which is, I mean, like considering high school, were you a direct student from high school to
Yes,
Cal
I
State Fullerton?
was.
So this is
Yes, I've
about,
been in school my whole life.
yeah, this is like 25 plus years of just straight school. So tell
Yeah.
me a little about that. Why did you decide to go on like a nonstop, maybe like rampage of just school? I don't know. I don't think I could do that for that many years back to
that's a
back.
good word to use, rampage. Yes. Well, I went straight into Cal State Fullerton from high school because I knew I wanted to go to college, and I didn't want to take time and waste my life. I wanted to just jump straight in and try to figure it out from there. As to why I went straight from there to different graduate programs, um, kind of a similar reason. I needed to get more education in order to be able to start working and to get more practical experience. Um, I chose, I always knew I was going to be a psychologist. Well, okay, not always. As I mentioned, I thought I was going to be a doctor first. Starting like, let's say, junior year, I figured, no, I will be a psychologist. So I knew I was going to pursue a doctorate in psychology at some point. The question at the time that I was graduating, or my senior year, was, do I go straight from bachelor's to a doctorate, or should I do a master's first, work a bit, get more education and training? What was I going to do? And a lot of my classmates were facing similar questions. Some of them did go straight to doctorates. Some of them did masters. Some of them worked for a little bit before going back to school. So I chose to go to Tel Aviv University. It was an international program, so it was taught in English, and I chose to do that because it was like a 1 year, like straight program, so I could get the master's degree in 1 year as opposed to 2. And I thought, okay, well, that'd be good because then I can get a different kind of education, social work. It was the degree was specialized in crisis and trauma, particular about social policy and planning of social service programs to address trauma and crisis in the population. So I thought, that would be a nice addition to my education because it would give me a different perspective. Psychology, you focus on the individual, but social work, often then you have to pay attention to the population and the community and how that relates to the individual or how the individual relates to the community. So it gave me a lot of different perspective into the mental health care systems and how to understand mental health care systems and policies and stuff like that, which was very interesting for me. And that's actually something that I still have an interest in now because the mental health care system, is not so good in America or in California. And that does kind of go back into the whole police question because if the system were to be fixed, maybe that would take some burden off of the police, whatnot. So there's a lot of different things that interrelate. So I wanted to get that experience. I wanted to have a different kind of education. And I thought, hey, getting a master's in 1 year as opposed to 2 was just not a bonus. So I did that, and then I started working after I graduated my master's. I worked in Long Beach in a psych unit in a normal hospital. So I've actually been working in like psych my whole career, which is strange because initially, like I said, I thought I was going to work with kids, and I never thought I was going to work with this population. I didn't know anything about this population. I mean, you in psychology majors, any psych majors who are listening will know you take abnormal psych, and so you do learn a bit about the different illnesses, but I had no exposure to the population or to the legal system or to anything like that before I started working. And it was like, oh, hello, you think that Jesus told you to take off your clothes? Okay, what? So it was a trial. But I realized that this is a population that is in a lot of need and is in crisis to some degree. And I thought this is where I can really kind of make a difference. And so I stuck with it. I stayed in this area. So I didn't start my doctorate program until I've been working for a couple of years because I wanted to get more experience. So then I found out about California Southern University through a friend of mine who at the time was working in their admissions office. And so she told me about it, and it is more affordable, to do it online. And it's a very flexible program because it's designed for working adults or people with families who can't really go in person. Granted, now during COVID, everything is online. So I was ahead of the game there. But it just fit with me because then I was able to still work full time and still do school and get my degree. So that's why I chose to then go for my doctorate, because I still want to be a psychologist. I want to get my doctorate and be able to be in a different position to help people in a different way.
So you were already doing the online program before online, like Zoom
Before it
University
became cool, yeah.
mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah,
You were a hipster with the
I
online
was doing
program.
online classes before all you young whippersnappers.
So so nothing, like not much changed for you when doing the online program a couple years ago till like this semester or like this year.
No, it's all been the same for me. And luckily, because I work in a hospital setting, I was considered an essential worker. So I still went to work even during the height of the pandemic. And obviously, we take a lot of precautions, and there's a lot of restrictions in our programming and the ways that we did things. I have to wear a mask all day long at work, and we have to wipe everything down, and all that stuff. But I'm grateful that I was still able to have that and not have to struggle. So
Were there a lot of visitations prior to COVID, and has that like changed during COVID?
like family visiting the
Yeah,
patient.
like family visiting, yeah.
Yes, we had to once like everything. Actually, we stopped doing visitations a bit before the lockdown happened. We tried to be ahead of the game, and really try to cut things off the feet. But yeah, we would have visiting hours twice a day normally for about like an hour to an hour and a half. And there, that was a big change, because a lot of families, they want to see their loved ones. Um, but since then, since we stopped doing in-person visits, we've been offering virtual visits over Zoom. So the families would schedule either a weekly time to do a Zoom visit, or they would just call whenever they want to schedule it individually. But we've been doing visits over Zoom, and the patients have appreciated that. The families have appreciated that. I think it's actually been better in some regards, because with normal visiting in person, there are restrictions as to who can come in. Like people under the age of 18 aren't allowed in. And there were family members that were too far away to come and visit. But now everyone is able to see their loved one, as long as they can work Zoom, which has been the main kind of impediment, trying to get people to figure out how to work Zoom.
But that's great. Yeah, the whole like mainstreaming of social interactions through Zoom and like other online platforms has kind of made it easier to talk to other people. Whereas,
Yeah.
you have family members far away, maybe you would get like a phone call, but now that with like Zoom, everything is done over here, which is very
Yeah,
helpful.
and we have 3 units at my hospital, and one Zoom account for 3 units to do all the visits. So it takes a lot of scheduling. We have to be very careful to not like double book or whatever. But any family member that wants to do it is able to do it. Even if they've never come in person before, now they can still do it. So we really want to find ways to kind of keep things as close to normal as possible, but obviously remaining safe.
All right. So now we're back with Ben, and we're going to ask him some quick fire questions, and we want to know his opinions on some of these topics. And we want like quick answers to these. Like, I just want to know like which one is your favorite.
Okay.
So, coffee versus tea.
Coffee.
Undergrad versus graduate.
Undergrad.
Early bird or a night owl.
I am an early bird.
So, math or language arts.
Language arts. I
Language
hate
arts.
math.
Oh.
Suck at math. Math is the devil.
In person or virtual.
In person.
Dog or cat.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I like both.
Is there one that wins? Do you have any pets?
I don't have any pets, but my best friend has a cat, and so like I've had more interactions with cats. But just because I hung out with her a lot. But I like dogs too. I've played with puppies. They're awesome.
Cats are the way to go. Cats are so chill. Would you rather receive a phone call or a text message?
I think I would rather have a phone call.
And waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes
So online shopping or shopping in a store?
online.
So would you rather also use like a pen or a pencil?
Um, I'm gonna say pen, but that's just because I'm more used to writing with pens since graduating.
Mhm.
So like in college, I used pencil for everything, but since graduating and working, I've been using pen for everything. So now it's just just my normal thing to go to is a pen.
And then would you rather watch a horror or a comedy movie?
Comedy,
Comedy movie all the way.
100%.
And then winter or summer?
Let's say summer, but like also winter.
That doesn't,
Fall.
so it's like fall or
Fall.
spring.
Yeah, fall. I
Just
like
in
fall or
between.
spring. I like the middle ground where it's not too hot but not too cold.
All right, so let's get back to Cal State Fullerton and some of the work you've done like during your years at Cal State Fullerton. So you did quite a bit. I believe you mentioned before that you were part of Active Minds and you did other like mentorship stuff. So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about like how you got into like after your first year, what you decided to join and why.
So that we have to go back to the freshman programs. So I did that my freshman year. We had like mentors with that. And so after my freshman year, before sophomore year, I like volunteered with freshman programs for like welcome day, where I would like, man the table out on the quad and the Titan walk. And, as prospective students are coming by and tell them about freshman programs. I also helped during move-in day for freshman programs because they had early move-in day. Um, so I was, helping the new freshmen move in, and I was telling them about freshman programs and all the stuff on campus. And I did initially I had volunteered the also enrollment as well. So freshman programs has early enrollment for classes. So they came to campus for orientation uh, before the rest of the students. So I volunteered for that so I could be like a orientation like advisor kind of mentor kind of thing. So I kind of explained to them about campus life and help them register for their classes, which was interesting because I remember I had only just done it myself like the year before. So it's like, oh, am I really an expert at this? Oh, shoot.
This is kind of like the
So
big brother, big sister type of program, right?
yeah, kind
Okay.
of like that. And the first club I joined on campus was Hillel, which is the Jewish student group. I, became really involved with that. Always would table for them on the quad or during any kind of like, welcome day, new student orientation or all that stuff. I was helping with that. Um, because I like talking to people. I like engaging them in conversation and, just finding out about them and all that stuff. Um, so I did that. That started freshman year. And then Active Minds didn't start until junior year. It wasn't around before. Um, so I joined that when it first started, and then I stayed with it until I graduated. Um, And with that, it's Active Minds as an organization is actually a national nonprofit that has chapters in different universities across the country, which is a student-run kind of thing. And they put on events to kind of educate people about mental health and decrease stigma. So we put on a lot of events, and you might be familiar with some of the events that we kind of introduced, like having therapy dogs come in around finals week and whatnot.
Yeah.
We started that.
Oh, okay.
And we initially we were like we were kind of by ourselves, but then we joined together with the Peer Health University Network and the Health Education Office because it was just like a different aspect of health education. So now Active Mind is like a subsection of that, or at least it was when I was there. I don't know if they even still around. So we did a lot of events throughout each semester, in not just for finals week, but we put on like movies where we were watching like Perks of Being a Wallflower or other kind of mental health related movies to have a discussion about mental health and stigma. Every year there's like Eating Disorders Awareness Week, and we would stand on the Titan Walk with all these big signs saying "You are beautiful" and "Work it" and like "Rock what you got." And that was a lot of fun. And it was a little weird for some students walking by because I'm just yelling at random people, "You're beautiful!" And a lot of people would be like, "I got a boyfriend" or "I got a girlfriend," and I'm just like, "Hey, whatever, you're still beautiful." So that was interesting.
Yeah.
Random yelling of stuff like that. So, and then also, like I mentioned, the Make a Wish Club I was involved with as well. Um, I think being involved on campus just made everything more worthwhile. It was definitely better for me being I lived on campus, so I didn't have to commute, so I was able to spend time after classes, going to club meetings or whatever, because a lot of people they commute and so they can't spend a lot of time with clubs because I have to beat the traffic, I have to get home. So I was very lucky in that regards, that I could do that. But it definitely made my time at Cal State Fullerton much more memorable. I, joined a course on campus, the Cal State Fullerton Men's Course. Which you get 1 credit for. It's a class and you can get 1 credit. That was a lot of fun, and anyone listening should join one of the courses on campus once they're back in. I don't know if they're doing the courses online, but if they are, join them because they're a lot of fun. And the teachers for both those courses, Dr. Eistad and Dr. Peterson, are the most amazing people in the world, and you will just love them.
So what do you do in those courses?
The choirs.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, chorus, not
Oh,
chorus.
chorus. I thought you meant
Chorus.
chorus.
Sorry,
Okay.
choir. Let's say choir. So we had like 3 concerts throughout the year or whatever. We went every fall. We would go like on tour to different high schools in the area and perform. And in the spring, we would invite high school students to come and sing with us. It was a lot of fun. Just amazing times.
I don't know if I can do that. I don't have a singing voice.
But you can. Half of the people in the men's course when I was there were not music majors. And of those that were music majors, very few of them were vocal majors. A lot of them were instrumentalists. You don't need to be a singer. You don't need to have had any training because that's what you're going to learn and that's what you will gain. I can promise you that. If you join the men's choir, then you will become a singer.
So, a little bit about your time at university. I just was wondering your goals and aspirations. Like, how did it grow as you grew?
Well, I think when I first started, I was focused more on just, you know, getting by. Um, I stuck with what I was familiar with. I didn't branch out too much. I just went to classes and I went back to my dorm, and that was it. Um, that was like the first semester. But then after that, you know, started kind of branching out a bit more because I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to learn new things. I just want to try everything. And, Cal State Fullerton made it so easy back then when we could be in person, the good old days. Um, and there were so many opportunities. Like Club Rush was like I love going to Club Rush, even if I never joined all of the clubs. I like to go and just talk to every single table, because then you would meet people and then you would find some common interests, and that's how you make friends. So that was a big thing for me. I wanted to make friends and I wanted to be involved on campus. I wanted to just feel like I belonged and it wasn't just school, that it was like a community. So that's why over the years I became more involved and I was volunteering more with freshman programs and I was doing different clubs, because I wanted to feel more like the university gave me all these opportunities, and I want to give it back.
So it's all about like taking advantage of like what was presented to you and just making sure you made like a full experience out of your 4 years at Cal State Fullerton. And
Yeah,
I really like
man.
the thing that you mentioned about Club Rush, and because I do that as well. Like whenever we had Club Rush on campus, we just walk around, and it's just like a lively campus at that point,
Yeah,
where like there are
it's like
tables
a
every
it's like a
foot.
carnival,
Exactly, yeah. Like you might not be interested in everything, but it's still fun to
but
just like talk to
it's
people or at
fun
least see
to
what they're like promoting.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about like what you would do differently if you could. I know you had like a fantastic experience and you did quite a bit on campus, but if there was like maybe one thing that you just wish you did or that you didn't do on campus, what would it have been?
I really don't know what I would do different. I feel like I did everything I was meant to do, and it was all worth it. I met some of my best friends at Cal State Fullerton, and some teachers that had the most impact on my life were at Cal State Fullerton. So um, I don't think I would change much.
It's good, like you have like a college experience with like no regrets or nothing that you missed out
Hmm.
on. So can you tell me like your favorite moment, like maybe on campus or your favorite memory at university?
One thing that was memorable, whether it was great or not, was it my junior year? I think can't remember exactly what year. It was not sophomore year. I don't think. I was helping with move-in for freshmen, which so I moved in early to the dorm, so that then I spent the whole day helping everyone else move in, and so I didn't even unpack myself. I just threw it into the dorm, and I went to go help all the freshmen move in, and I spent like the whole day doing that, and I did not put on sunscreen. Um, I didn't notice that I was, burning. I didn't feel it. I didn't think about it. And no one mentioned it. No one thought to say, "Oh, hey, you're getting a little red there. Are you okay?" No. I spent basically from like 7 a.m. to like I don't even know when it ended. From start to finish, getting all the freshmen moved in, and I mean, it was amazing. I loved it, and some of the friends, some of my good friends now, I met because I helped them to move in. Um, and then I got back to my dorm, and I'm all tired and everything, and I go to the bathroom and I look in the mirror, and I was like red as a lobster. But I had a little mask because I was wearing sunglasses, and so the tan line around my eyes of the sunglasses. It was like what you see in cartoons.
Yeah.
It was exactly like that. So that was kind of memorable. It took forever for it to like peel and get better and everything. It was not fun. It was not fun.
Not a great memory, but a memorable
But
one for
it was
sure.
memorable because it was meaningful in that I was helping all these people move in, and like I said, I made actually some really good friends, who are younger than me, who I helped them to move in.
Great that we have so many programs that allow for new freshmen to come in like straight out of high school and still have someone who can like guide them through. To end it off, I'd like to know a little bit about like some advice you would give to students. So like to start off, can you give me like a pitch for why like incoming students would want to major in psychology, why they should choose it as their like focus?
Because it's probably the most versatile major. You can go into almost any career with a psychology bachelor's. You don't have to be a clinical psychologist. You don't have to be a social worker. You could go into business. You can go into law. You can go into education. Uh, you can go into anything, because if you know how to understand people, you can do almost anything. So psychology major is probably one of the most versatile, um, and the most broad reaching. It gives you a lot of opportunities, a lot of options for your future life that may or may not be clinical in basis. And it can also inspire you to look at different things. A lot of people start in psychology and then they switch to medicine or switch to child development or vice versa, and they kind of realize that one is too narrow and they want to be more open-ended. It's a very uh, it's a very good major to give you opportunities that are beyond what you could have thought.
I see. Yeah, a lot of people go into like these majors, and there's just so many like things for you to do there. Whereas like if you try and major in something, maybe they think about like just the money of like being a doctor, maybe a CS
Mhm.
major engineering, but
Yeah.
you get limited in like the scope that you can choose after you graduate. But when people go into like some liberal studies or some majors that people might not look to at the beginning, there's so many different paths you can go to down the road.
Yeah, I mean, granted, once you're, in your careers and once you're, or if you're going to go to grad school, that does narrow things down further. But by that point, you know that that's what you want to do. So psychology is a good way to kind of figure out what you want to do.
Exactly. And then what advice would you give to like some students who maybe they're at Cal State Fullerton and they're majoring in psychology, right? And they're about to graduate and they don't know like what to do in their fourth year?
What I would recommend is, first of all, make good use of your advisors. The academic advisors, they're there for a reason. Talk to your professors.
It's all about making connections. It does feel kind of intimidating sometimes as a student,
Mhm.
trying to ask for letters of rec or trying to connect with professors because there's maybe one professor and so many students, 30 to maybe even 100 at times. So it does
Yeah,
feel kind of intimidating, but you kind of
it
just have to make
is.
the effort.
Yeah, you have to, but don't do it for like just any teacher. First of all, the teacher that you like, that their class is engaging for you. Because if you're engaged in the class, that means that something about the way that they are presenting information appeals to you. It means that you connect with them already in a certain way. So, go to them for office hours, start talking to them.
And to wrap it up, I just want to know like quick tips of maybe people coming into Cal State Fullerton and like what they should like expect with like Zoom University happening right now.
I would advise anybody who's having to deal with this, this is when you need to make a little bit more effort to reach out and to get to know people because you can't do it in the normal way. So until we can, maybe while you're in the Zoom class, do the private chat to a friend and just like chat with them, and ask them questions or whatever, you know, ask them to hang out virtually or socially distant, however you're doing it. But you do need to make a little bit more effort, but it'll be worth it.
So I wanted to ask you a quick question. Are you on our Titan Pro network?
I think so.
So Titan
I
Pro Net,
probably am. I probably am.
well, that's great because Titan Pro Network, as you probably know, is our very own LinkedIn site
Mhm.
where alumni, students, faculty, and staff can all connect with one another and get advice from each other. So I know a lot of people who are just like wondering, how do I know like what are my next steps? What should I do next? They're alumni. I believe we have over 1,000 alumni already signed up for the program. So
Mhm.
it's very simple, very intuitive to use. You can easily find anyone who you're looking for in any field. So it's very easy to get advice with whatever you're majoring in or maybe in a career setting. So I recommend
Yeah.
everyone sign up for it today, and people could probably reach out to you if you are on the program and just ask
Yeah.
you more about what you do or any advice that they need.
Of course, if I am on there, which I think I am, but if you see me on there, definitely message me. I'd be happy to answer any questions, particularly anyone wanting to go into psychology. What is a doctorate program in psychology like? Or if anyone is going to social work, I'd be happy to answer those questions. But if anyone just wants to chat about college life, I'm down for that too.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining us on the podcast today. We had a great conversation and I really loved it.
Yeah, I did too. It was wonderful. Thank you for having me.